and welcome. It's What's Your Perspective live here, and I'm excited about my guest today. But first, I want to say hello to my co-host, Keith Harris. Keith, how are you?
I'm doing great, Neil. Good to see you.
Oh, I'm excited about our guest. And again, when we talk about this part of our solution, our fleet management solution, we need to bring in our sales engineer, Almen Didelija. Almen, thanks for stopping by. How are you?
Hey, thank you guys for having me today here. I'm good. How you doing, Neil?
Good. I'm doing great. I remember when you first demoed our fleet solution at the first time in Houston, and I was blown away because who would have thought there would be this technology, the ability to fit a VMS inside with the technology of cameras on buses. So kind of explain the process of how that started our fleet management product.
Sure. This started, I can't remember exact date, but let's say roughly 10 years ago with one of our customers that had our VMS for their building security. They approached us with asking for a solution for two things. One of them was retrieving the video from the vehicles, in this case, school buses, without having somebody go outside, turn the engine on, turn the NVR on, and perhaps offload the video on the memory stick or pull the hard drive out. They wanted that to be done remotely from the Transportation Administration Office. So that's one thing. The other thing was they wanted also, if possible, they asked us if we could unify or combine both of the systems, meaning that let's say district user can access building and transportation video security under the same umbrella. Because before, traditionally, you have a separate VMS for building security and a different solution for transportation security. So that way user would have to log into both systems, and it wasn't really streamlined. So we did come up with the solution where our customer was able to retrieve the video remotely without having to go physically to the vehicle, in this case, again, school bus, and wake up NVR and pull the data to the server and review the video of incident or accident. Also, we were able to integrate that part into our VMS at the time. At the time, it was our older VMS called LVMS, whereas now our new product is a PVMS. So
this product, Almen, has been evolving for quite some time. It always amazes me at how technology moves things along. But the users in this circumstance would have to physically send a person to each bus to pull the hard drives off and take them into the office to offload video off of the DVRs that were on each bus. And it was really a bad solution for them, but it was the only one they had available to them at the time, right?
Yes, and not only that, it was hard for those administrators. They have to walk and find a bus, get a key, pull the memory card or hard drive out, and then go to the office and connect it to the machine. But, you know, there a lot of time there were cases where they would forget to put the right, because you have this customer had almost 1,000 of school buses. So they would mix like the hard drive. So from bus number 1, they would put it in bus number 14. And they were making a lot of mistakes there too. So it was very cumbersome.
They had analog cameras on these buses, which have a much lower resolution than what we're able to provide now, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. At the time, we did accept what customer already had on their buses because they were not ready, perhaps, to upgrade the hardware itself. So we made an extra effort to integrate with the that current manufacturer. But later on, we created a solution where we trying to stay hardware agnostic. As you know, building security, we wanted to transfer that to the fleet security as well. So we didn't want to stick with a single manufacturer of in-vehicle NVR. As long as that NVR has a proper operating system, we can use any of those manufacturers. And if in case one of the manufacturers goes out of the business, which was case before in some instances, it would be easy just to get another kind of almost off the shelf product for the fleet management. So,
but even those rugged NVRs are becoming a lot more advanced these days than what you had available when we first started offering fleet.
Absolutely.
What are some of the advancements that you're seeing now?
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, the biggest advancements were there were no really Windows based like a ruggedized NVRs, like everything was analog and Linux based. But now there's a variety of those ruggedized NVR. They rated for high temperatures. They have built-in, obviously, GPS, which is important for a fleet solution, digital input and outputs, which you can utilize like we do to collect certain data, metadata, or data from the bus, such as a stop arm on the school bus or yellow flashers, panic button and stuff like that. Obviously, the size of the storage and the type of storage before the only option was really mechanical drives. There was a lot of failures. That was the Achilles heels for the transportation, the mechanical drives. But nowadays, really, I hope everyone is switching to solid state drives just because of there's no moving parts. And the NVR itself is basically fanless. Again, the whole NVR has no moving parts. So it is amazing. And it
can operate on the same voltage the vehicle's operating on.
Yes.
You're collecting not just video from high resolution IP megapixel cameras, but you're also collecting all of this data from the vehicle itself. Tell us a little bit about what some of the data capture mechanisms are like when you're using one of these rugged NVRs along with Perspective VMS.
Well, what we capturing is, I mentioned GPS, so we're capturing the route that the vehicle took. At the same time, not only that we capturing that, but we integrating with, in this case, OpenStreetMaps. So you can actually, while playing back the video, and we're going to show that a little bit later, you can see the route of the vehicle while watching the video. So you can kind of reference at what time and date certain vehicle was at certain point. So GPS is one of them. The other ones are, for example, turn signals. So if the driver did turn blinker on or off, a brake signal as well is one of them. I mentioned earlier a stop arm, which is very important for the school buses, and like a flashers, and I think that's pretty much it. Although it's not limited to those. Different vehicles could have some different triggers, such as maybe ambulance or let's say in a cannabis transportation, like the vans that they use. We can rename those inputs basically, so it doesn't have to be a turn signal or stop arm. It could be something else. So,
and I think that's fascinating to have that ability, right, Almen, as we talked about from the beginning of the broadcast, and now you're going to show it to us, the ability to monitor a vehicle not just by pulling footage once the vehicle gets back into the bus station or transportation station, wherever they go, they can view what's happening real time, and that's really powerful, isn't it?
That is powerful. And again, the data that I mentioned earlier, it's important because, say, in case of school buses, if there was an accident, you could see at that time if for example, the turn signal was on, if the driver was braking or not, or if there is some kind of incident when the bus stopped and there was no stop arm. So they wanted to make sure that the drivers first are in compliance with their rules, driving a school bus, and then a lot of times this was also used for insurance purposes as well, believe it or not. If there were accidents, that customer I mentioned earlier, they were using this video for insurance purpose as well, just to make sure that it's not driver's fault, but rather maybe someone else's fault, some other driver. So,
right. It's really interesting how you can pull in a much better picture of the story when you're connecting equipment on the vehicle in with the record that you're capturing from the cameras as well. So you're actually bookmarking activity that's occurring when a bus brake is applied, when the stop arm is deployed, when blinkers are put on. Even when a door is opened or closed, if that's connected through. Yep. There's certain things that are very helpful for telling the complete picture, and having the GIS map of the route and the location that along where the incident occurred is helpful as well. If a delivery wasn't made, or if a bus stop was missed, then that information becomes part of the record as well. We've just added a recent feature in Perspective VMS where you can print a route that a vehicle has taken across a period of time. Let's say a delivery van leaves the depot first thing in the morning, and you want to see everywhere that vehicle went during the course of the day, from the morning through to the close of the day. Then the user can go in and print a route and show exactly where that vehicle went through that time period. And so that's another very helpful new feature that we've added.
Yeah. And again, a lot of these features, like with the regular building security, came from our customers. So in this case, the trip route was a feature that was customer needed basically to present to enforcement agency where that particular vehicle went, which route during the certain hours, because of the cargo that was transporting. It was very sensitive. So that is a very good feature and quick way to see where the vehicle or bus or van went on which route. Also, they were using this. I mentioned earlier, school buses. This is also important for if the driver deviates from the route itself and not taking the regular route, that can cause perhaps that may not be the most fuel efficient, because with a fleet of 1,000 buses, if they're not using the most efficient routes, everything adds up basically as a cost. So
plus, if they're carrying precious cargo.
That is correct.
Owners want to make sure they understand where the vehicle is and what route they're taking.
Exactly. Yeah. I forgot to mention earlier, Keith, that when I said when we switched to IP-based, traditionally the fleet video security was based around the analog solution. One of the reasons we went with the IP-based solution is, you already mentioned it, but the choice of IP camera and a resolution choice that you get with IP cameras. So when we were dealing with analog cameras, our customer was, they really wanted like to read the license plate, for example. And with the analog camera, that was almost impossible, especially like 5-10 years ago. But now with the cameras, multi-megapixel from 1 megapixel to 12 megapixel, you can actually have that choice, and perhaps maybe you don't want to have 5 megapixel cameras everywhere, but the ones that are facing like a road, front and back, and looking at the traffic, you could have a higher megapixel camera and make sure if there is an incident and that footage is pulled, that the clarity is there.
And you get forensic level detail at certain distances, enough to capture information like license plate details, or specific information about the color of a vehicle, or be able to capture a crisp image of the driver to be able to have that person recognizable
exactly
for future reference. So it really is helpful for improving forensic evidence that's captured in and around the vehicle.
Exactly. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the infrastructure. That we've done some unique things with the security, fleet security management that helps from an infrastructure level. You mentioned tying in a transportation system with their building security, but there's also some other things we've done that might help to improve capture of data from a vehicle when that vehicle returns to the depot.
Yes. So that solution that we provided for one of our existing customers obviously needed some infrastructure upgrade, or we need to design it from the scratch. So in this case, obviously, if they want this data to be transferred from these vehicles when they come back to their base or depot, the best or the only way to transfer that data would be through Wi-Fi. So we got with the IT department, and we have designed access points throughout the Home Depot parking lots, so that way that these buses are covered and they can easily communicate with the access point, and they are communicating with our server. And that's how communication happens, through the access point. Each NVR has built-in Wi-Fi, and it communicates with the access point and with our main Perspective VMS server. So it was, in some instances, it was a challenge, but working with the end user and their IT department, we were able to find a proper solution for them.
And when the vehicle pulls into the depot, and the driver powers down the vehicle and goes home for the night, somebody can come in and remotely connect with that NVR, turn on the NVR remotely without having to physically go to the vehicle to start up the NVR. So they can start that, turn that NVR on remotely, and then start retrieving data from that NVR without having to physically be at the vehicle. So that really is quite a significant improvement over what we've seen in the past, isn't it?
Yes, that is. And definitely not only that they can pull that data, but when the bus comes back into the depot, the administrator actually can see if it's in range or if it's already still on the road. So once it gets back in range, there's a graphical indicator there to tell you that bus is ready and that you can start retrieving the data from it. So, but yes, that's much better than walking physically to the bus, especially in some of these climates, like in Texas here. It can get hot in the middle of the summer, and these are huge bus depots with some of them having over 250 buses maybe in that parking lot. And it could be a long walk or a golf cart drive. So, yes. So they were very pleased with that solution. And because it simplifies everything. If you can imagine having two separate systems, and for each system, for example, you create username and password for each administrator there. And then not only that, in the case of the school district, transportation administration was kind of middleman. They were accepting requests from the principals from the middle schools and high schools. So now, after the administration people took care of incident and saw it, that needed to be passed for the principal to review that incident as well. And since the principals already had an access to the building security through our software, they were seamlessly able to watch these incidents. No one needed to email that or deliver that to them on a flash drive or anything like that. So really everyone benefits from this solution here. So that's another advantage, Keith.
I think now, Keith, we're ready to see it. Right?
Let's take a look.
So this is, I already have open Perspective here. And again, this is the same interface that you saw for our building security. We added what we call Fleet tab here, and that's where you would initially go to deal with the fleet video security system. So when you click on the fleet on your left here, you would have all of your vehicles listed there. In this case, the customer I just mentioned, they had like quite a few vehicles, almost 1,000. But this is our demo in Houston, so we have just a single vehicle there. Once you click on the vehicle, you can have that similar interface that you are using with building security. You have an archive timeline. You can select time and date and pick it, and then the available data will be displayed. The available video will be displayed on a timeline. If there is any other events, such as, again, panic button or whatever other event is set up with the vehicle, that event could also be displayed in a timeline. And if you look at the legend here, for example, we have something called bookmark or stops or idle periods even. So that way you can quickly recognize and get to the certain events there. But in this case, we have just the archive video here. I mentioned earlier, as far as the design, usually these vehicles have anywhere from like single camera to 6 to maybe even 8 cameras. In this case, there are 6 cameras here. So again, same as with the regular camera viewer for your building security, you could play back everything with the global controls down here. So if I hit play, all 6 cameras will start playing back. Okay, you could create a different layout. If you do not like this camera being down here, you could put it in the middle perhaps, and maybe put this one to the left, and so on. So you can shuffle these cameras around like you would with the regular building security. Okay. Again, each camera has its own overlay, like you would get in a building security interface. You could zoom in and out, like I'm doing right now, just with the scrolling the mouse. Okay. If audio is enabled, you could listen to the audio as well. Okay. You can also, since this vehicle is going down the road, you can actually see the speedometer here. So this driver is going about 28, 30 miles per hour down the road and coming to a stop sign here. Okay. And
I see, you see the turn signals applied.
Yes.
Brakes are applied. And so that then they begin the turn. You're getting a pretty clear picture here. It'd be very easy to stop and even see a license plate as you're driving along here.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct.
Especially when the bus is at a full stop. It really provides a lot of clarity for the picture.
Yeah. And also below the speedometer here, we have a map that you can pull up, and you can see it will leave the trace, and it will show you the route that bus took. Basically, you can zoom in and out on that map as well. Like I said, this current integration is with OpenStreetMap, but I think in one of our next versions, we will be integrating with Google Maps as well. So, okay. You could also just, if you're interested in playing back the single camera, let's say I'm just interested in a driver camera here, and perhaps I want to maximize that, right? You can see the even better clarity now when this is maximized. So you can just monitor that single camera, and hitting escape button, you can put it back to the multi-view.
And then the other thing I'm noticing is it's pretty easy to use, isn't it, Almen? Just like our
It is, especially for the users that are familiar with our building security system. This is nothing new. The same overlays, camera overlays, and global controls on the bottom, and very similar timeline here. So that is correct. Yes.
And you pull archive the same way that you do with Perspective VMS, the physical security, right?
Yes, it's very similar. So, for example, you can narrow down and just to focus on that period of time. Although the only thing that is missing from this timeline is thumbnails. We do not show thumbnails for right now in this solution. With the regular solution, just because of the space maybe limitations, we do not display thumbnails in this. But you can quickly start playing back from any of the time segments here, such as, let's say, 7:07 here. So I can just start playing back from there as well. I mentioned individual camera playback. This is also good in case bandwidth is an issue. So instead of streaming all 6 of them, you're interested just to monitor this lady here. And if something happens, if you did find an accident and involves any other camera view, you could easily just hit sync all, and all the other cameras will sync with that current date and time for that particular camera. So, okay.
So you've really tried to make it as easy as possible for the end users to be able to navigate and use. And obviously, we're looking at a school bus scenario here. What are some other types of examples that we've seen of people that are using this to monitor their fleet?
I would definitely, the good example would be public transportation, such as buses and light rails. I would also say, I mentioned earlier, actually, we do have a customer that they do a cannabis transportation as well. That is becoming more and more, I guess, popular, and security video security is an important part of the whole process.
Yeah, they have to monitor the cannabis throughout the entire process or industrial life cycle, so to speak, from the time it's planted all the way through to the time it is used in various products. It has to be under surveillance. So if they have to transport it from place to place, then they have to have cameras on their vehicles in order to be able to monitor the transport. So we're seeing a growing industry there within the cannabis industry of people that are needing to have that cargo monitored while it's in transport. So it's really become a quite an interesting time in the security industry just because of that reason alone, and cannabis becoming so much more popular.
Yep, absolutely. You see if I can maybe zoom into a license plate here. I was seeing cars passing by, so I can actually see, this is what I was talking about earlier, KYH0432. These are Texas plates. And this is on a freeway, so cars going on a probably 36 miles an hour. So it's not like car is standing. It was passing this bus by, and I was able to capture that license plate. So that's what I was talking about earlier regarding the clarity and why we switched to IP cameras, because more and more the end users were like, yeah, that is a car, but I need a little bit more details. Perhaps even if maybe try to zoom in to see if this driver was a woman or a man, or, maybe better description of the vehicle, such as maybe this is Cadillac. So, so this is the IP camera will give you much more clarity than the analog cameras.
I was going to say, Almen, this also could be utilized in a situation where someone might have blown past the stop sign when the bus was stopped, but maybe and then the bus person identified a license plate, but then says, "Hey, I want to see if this is truth." The footage could be pulled very easily, compared to what if you just had to pull it just from a vehicle, then go through all of it.
Yes,
like finding a date and time when that incident occurred.
Absolutely. Let's pretend this bus has stopped, and here you can actually see this is a stop arm here, right? So let's say this stop arm was engaged, and if this vehicle blew by, you could have easily, first of all, see that there was a stop arm engaged, and then you could pick up a license plate easily from that.
You can easily use the features within Perspective VMS to tag that incident even automatically based on workflows within the software. Easily tag that event just upon the bus stop arm being deployed, can create an event that becomes now something that is easy to find and search within the system. So it'd be very easy for an administrator or a transportation director to go through incidents from a single bus and be able to quickly pull and identify ones where somebody might have gone past a deployed stop arm. So it'd make it very easy to be able to follow up with law enforcement to catch people that are putting kids' lives in danger.
Yep, absolutely. So in this case here, we are basically watching the raw archives from the NVR itself that is on the vehicle. But if you do want to import that, again, there are a couple of methods, depends on who is the customer and what they want to do with this footage. Some of them, like a cannabis, they want to offload that right away when the vehicles are in the base. So the Perspective server will upload those videos from the NVRs and store them for future use. With the school district, one of the customer I mentioned earlier, they had like around 1,000 buses, so they didn't want all that data automatically to start transferring. Plus, you have 200 buses coming into a depot maybe at the same time, and that was not really even doable. But what they wanted was, and that was okay for them, because they wanted to be able basically just to remotely access these NVRs when incident occur, when someone reports an incident or accident. But in case of a cannabis transportation, that needs to happen automatically, and the whole video needs to be offloaded to the server. So if you do, if you do want to create an extraction, you can. So pretty much like with our regular building cameras, you can eventually extract this video that will show up in the image extractions here. And then other people can see it and perhaps download it to their local machines as well. So, okay.
And you can imagine scenarios for well beyond just your standard vehicular transportation. I mean, I can imagine scenarios for obviously buses and boats for transportation of all sorts, whether it's 18-wheelers or there's all sorts of ideas that could be covered from this type of scenario, with lots of different technical details that could be captured as well in the terms of metadata from the digital inputs and outputs and things like that. So really the you don't have any limits really when it comes right down to it in terms of what you might be able to do to cover your transportation needs with a system like this.
And I know that in some cases it's good to have security for your fleet, the video security footage, but in some cases it's mandatory. I mentioned earlier cannabis transportation. This was not a choice. This was a requirement in order for you to be able to do this type of work. And one of other requirements in that case, I believe, was for the enforcement personnel from the state to be able to easily access the system and check the routes of these vehicles easily. And our system being web application, obviously, that was easy things for us to do, and our end user was able to create users for the state enforcement personnel. And now they can log in and monitor what's going on at any point there. So I did remember also you mentioning different solutions, but I think last ISC West that we went to Vegas, a gentleman from New Zealand, I believe, they approached us and liked the fleet solution, because there, I think their government is mandating that these fishing boats, I believe, could be either New Zealand or Australia, they had to have a footage of them going out and coming back. And I think the question was about how much they can bring as far as like how much fish they can catch and stuff like that. So it would be a good application for those boats. So as those fishing boats come back to the harbor, they could perhaps be set up same way as these transportation vans for cannabis. So,
wow, very, very interesting stuff, to say the least. And to get to see the things that can be done with the solution, and Almen, what's it make the end user really think about having a VMS with an NVR? What's the big, I guess, reason they should consider our fleet management solution?
Well, the big reason is one. I think I mentioned earlier two of them, but not a lot of VMS manufacturers or integrators offer IP-based video solution for the transportation. Again, a lot of analog cameras still out there, so that would be one advantage. Again, you're not locked to a single system, single solution, single camera, single NVR manufacturer. So that would be one of the reasons. But obviously the other one, management of your, and this would be a good segue to mention another solution we'll be bringing in 4.4, but managing the building security and fleet video security under a single interface, and not having to log into separate system for both. We are not stopping at the fleet solution. This is maybe for next discussion, but we will be integrating, for example, body-worn cameras from the security and police officers. So that will be interesting as well.
Wow.
So, obviously, you want to manage all that video from the same interface, same VMS, rather than logging into 3 different solutions. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits there too. And we are a software manufacturer, so any new features, this body-worn camera features came as a request not too long ago, and I think within maybe 4 months, we will be able to put that out there. So
that's a pretty quick turnaround.
Yes, that is very quick turnaround. Yes.
So everyone needs to want to find information on fleet by going to lensec.com/sales to schedule a demo with one of our sales reps or sales engineers, and Keith, anything else to add for today's broadcast?
Gosh, fascinating stuff. I can't wait to see what our engineers come up with next. Every time I turn around, they're just dropping a new one on us, and it really is interesting to see what ranges we can reach. And I'm just fascinated by the stuff that Almen has talked with us about today. Thanks for coming on and sharing with us today, Almen.
Well, thank you guys for having me here today.
Absolutely. So everyone needs to go to lensec.com/live to catch up with all the live episodes. Go to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like all our different social media. Like and share today's broadcast, and make sure everyone learns more about LENSEC and our great solution. And Keith, again, thank you. Almen, again, thank you. And we'll talk soon again. Another great What's Your Perspective. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.